All right, as promised, we're going to deal with some media uploading now. So, yeah, Serverpod has stuff built in for uploading images, and it works really nicely. Um, and we're going to, use an avatar concept in our app to play with that. I will reiterate that this app really has no need for an avatar. It's not really a social app. No one else is going to see your avatar. Maybe you like looking at yourself, and we can let people do that. But let's try to get that figured out. So I'm looking at the uploading files docs, and there's some stuff in here about how it kind of works and everything like that. So we're going to get this set up. So I am going to start by opening up our server.dart. Okay, so what we're going to do is we need to install, before we start to kind of put this code in, let us actually get S3 set up. So we're going to import this package into our server.dart as S3. Now we're seeing, oh no, it doesn't work. There isn't anything here. That's because we also have to install it. So in server pubspec.yaml, we want to include this, and similarly make sure you use the same version, 1.0.1. And then we save this file, and yep, we're good now. Okay, now in order to configure this, and this code is right over here, we just basically copy this. And here you would fill out your data. I've already set up the S3, and I'm not going to be using this public host thing. That is just a bit of extra work to put basically a cloud front in front of it and get fancier, nice URLs. I don't really care about that. So these are my configuration for it. That's just the name of the bucket. It's in Canada. I'm letting them be public, all that kind of stuff. This I'm not going to be covering setting up an S3 bucket on Amazon. There's a million tutorials to do that. So you can just set one up and just make sure it's set to allow public read. And you also, if you do want to run this in web, you'll have to have a CORS file in there so that it can be accessed from whatever domain or all domains if you wish. So we have that. And then the other part we have to do, which I'm not going to show on camera, just because I don't feel like sharing my AWS keys with the internet. But basically, you're going to take this and you're going to go into your passwords.yaml file on the server, and underneath shared, you're going to want to put these guys in, just like that. So you still have your my shared password, but then you put these guys, and you'll replace these with your keys, which I'm going to pause for a minute and put those in and close this file. Okay, so I've put in my shared my Amazon key and my secret, and that's good. We're gonna, before we forget, we are gonna restart our server because we made some changes to it. Okay, now what's next? Well, the way I kind of want to work with this. Oh, here we go. So we're getting this error again, and I think we were able to solve this just by going into the server and going dart pub get. I think it's just something wrong with my VS Code, the way it's, what version of Flutter it's using or something like that. Oops. And we just want to rerun our server. And hopefully we don't get that error now. We are good. Okay, so the way I want to deal with media is I'm actually, we are going to set up some endpoints and stuff for handling our media. So inside the server, let's see server, we're going to go into our lib source endpoints. And I'm going to make a new endpoint called asset endpoint. Okay. And basically here, I'm going to go back to the documentation, and we're going to grab this code here. Wait, actually, let's start by, let's just grab that example endpoint again, just have a starting spot, and get rid of this. Okay, so we're gonna have we're gonna grab this first function and we're gonna put it in here and save, even though it's not correct yet. And we're gonna have another one, and we're gonna wait. We're going to. Oh, I see. Sorry, I did this wrong. We just basically want these two as is. Okay, cool. Okay, so now we have some asset endpoints, and basically the way this is going to work, the way Serverpod has it working, and I kind of like it, is first from the client, we call this endpoint get upload description, and it's going to return a bunch of metadata back, and then we actually run the built-in Serverpod upload function using that description as kind of like the data and details. So this is kind of like, it's like an initialization of an upload, then we do the upload, and then after we verify the upload to make sure it worked. And this will get us some files. Okay, so we have these guys. That is good. Let's go to the Flutter side. I'm going to restart this, though. Look, we're going to restart it so that hopefully we don't make that mistake again. Okay, so let's go to Flutter side. And we're going to make inside our feature folder, another folder called asset. And in this case, we don't really need a provider for this. This, to me, is more a service that we're going to make. And that should be plural services. And new file called asset service.dart. All right. So what I'm going to do is just create a class. And this class, we're not using Serverpod or anything. It doesn't care about state. It's really just like a tool, a utility for us to do stuff. And we're going to make a function that's going to return a nullable string in the future called upload image. And we're going to be passing into it an X file, which is just part of the image picker library. And we'll call it image. And we're going to allow a path to be passed in as well to where we want to store it and the file name and stuff. But in the case that the path is null, we will just set it path equals test.jpg or something. We'll probably want to make that a little bit better. Okay, so now, like I said, we need to get the upload description. So we'll just make a thing called upload description. And we're going to await our API client, which is that singleton. Now, I don't feel like typing that again, so I'm going to copy and paste from the other file. And so we got access to the API client, and actually, let's just call this client. So now we're going to await client.asset. No, it's not showing up yet. So we have example. We don't have asset. I think there's one. We must have missed one thing, or just this generator didn't run. Let me think. Well, I realize why. This should be called asset endpoint. Let it generate. Client.asset.get upload description, and we pass in that path variable. Cool. And assuming it's not null, we're going to create what's called, or create an uploader, and this is just built into, it's called file uploader. It's built into Serverpod when you have the right modules installed, and we just construct it using that upload description. Then there's some fun nitty-gritty we have to do here just to make this work. This is the best way I can get it to work. There might be a faster way, but we're basically going to get the length of that file in bytes. So to do that, we want to await that image, which is the thing we passed in, .read as bytes. But then we want to wrap this whole await and get its length. So that'll get us the length, and that's actually going to just be an integer. It's really the number of bytes inside of it. Then we need to create a stream, and the stream is just going to be, we take the image and we go open read. Okay, then we just go await uploader dot upload stream and length. Now this doesn't return anything, so after that's complete, we want to check if it actually worked, and we can go file success equals await client dot asset dot verify. That's the other endpoint we made, that path, and to make sure like, yep, it's there, everything's good. And if success was false, let's just return null from this. All right, cool. Then what I want to return from here, anytime we upload something, I want to return the URL, because that's really what we care about here. So what we're going to do, this upload description it's actually a string, but you'll see it's actually data that comes back, and maybe we can even before we get there, let's print out that upload description. And obviously, in order to do this, okay, let's just return like an empty string for now, so it doesn't complain. Actually, at the very end, we'll return a string here, and at the very end, we'll return null if everything went bad. Okay, now it's not complaining. Everyone's happy. Okay, so we need a way to handle this. So let's just, for now, in our what would this be? The account screen. In our on tap, we want to upload a file. So I'm just going to, and this is using the image picker library. So we're just going to go image equals await image picker. And we do need to make sure it's async. So the image picker is just a pretty popular package for Flutter. I'm sure you've used it. Pick image, and we'll just use image source dot gallery. With the simulator, it's really the only one you can use. So, so you see this is a X file, which is a type of file. And in the case image, if image does not equal null, then let's just try getting this asset service that we just made dot upload image. And all we have to do is pass the image, and then we can actually even pass in, a path, foobar.jpg or something. We will await that, and let's just see if that even works. Now, I think we're about to crash the app because there's one step we missed that there's no way around it other than rebuilding anyway. So let's just crash it. I'm gonna click this. It crashed. The reason it crashed is we need to put in the in our p list, in our iOS p list. Make sure it's the right one. We need to add a couple things in here, and I'm just going to grab these from another project because it's annoying to Google this. Cool. So it's just 2 keys we need to add. In fact, it's really just one because we're not actually going to use the camera, but we might as well put it in. So it's just NS photo library usage description and NS camera usage description. Apple just requires those before even showing the camera, and you'll never get your app approved if you don't have those in there anyways. So let's make sure we're still pointed to the simulator, and we'll restart, and I'll just pause for a minute while we wait. It's building actually. Oh, here we go. That was faster than I expected. All right, let us try this again. So my account, and hopefully it doesn't crash this time. There we go. We'll allow all photos, and I'll just choose this photo. And we'll actually see in our debug console that we're printing out, oh, we have a status code for it. Did I really? Remember we renamed it from example to asset, and then I didn't restart the server. I restarted it like 3 times, I'm pretty sure, and but forgot to do it on the last one. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, there we go. So it's returning this data, which tells you the URL of your bucket, as well as, like, I don't know, a bunch of other stuff, the policy and all that kind of stuff. So all that being said, what I want to be able to do here now is decode this. So what we're going to do is make a map string dynamic, and we'll just call it decoded description, and that's going to be JSON decode, and we pass in the upload description. So now we have this lovely decoded description here, and what I want to return from this is actually the specifically the decoded description and the parameter called URL. And then after that, we want to just return the slash, because it doesn't end on a slash, just on the com. And then we return path. So that way, this thing will actually return the URL. So let's try that out by going back to our account screen, and let's just make something called URL equals this, and let's just print out that URL after. So we should see here after it's done, cool, we got this foobar, yep, that's what we called it. And if I actually open up this and download it somewhere, we will see it worked. Beautiful. Okay, so we have at least have you know, images working, and or at least uploading. So that wasn't too bad. And yeah, most of that heavy lifting is all done by Serverpod. We didn't really do anything crazy there. Okay, let's now uploading this image here is great, but we're not dealing with its state. We're not even updating it. So let's move this function. I'm just going to cut it, and we're going to go back to our session provider. I feel like this is something that we could just do in the session, and we'll make a new function called update avatar. And the question is, yeah, we're going to pass in, just to keep the, we're going to pass in the image here, and then we're basically going to, you know, end up calling this in some way, shape, or form. So I'll just paste it back in before we lose it. And let's go back here. And we got our image, and then we're just going to run ref.read session provider .notifier update avatar and pass in that image. But we only want to pass in that image if image does not equal null, because they might have canceled. If we want to update the avatar. Okay, so within here, first of all, let's just make sure, you know, they should. There's no way really to get to this in our UX, but we should make sure that the state.user does not equal null, or we should just be state.is authenticated. If they're not authenticated, we should just return false from here. We are going to make this a future bool. Okay, so we get this. Now, I want to construct, I don't want to just use foobar, you know, we want something a little bit better. So we're going to first figure out what the extension of this file is, and we can get that by looking at image.path.split. Oops, sorry, final extension equals image.path.split, and we'll split on the dots and get the very last one. So that should be the extension. There's, you know, maybe some cases where this won't work, but it should be fine. And then we want to get the path. We're going to build our own path. So it's going to just be, I want to put this in something called like avatars. The cool thing about S3 is you can basically, you don't have to worry about like, does this folder exist or anything. You can create a path however you want, and it will put it in that right spot. So avatars. And then we're actually going to put some kind of name here, which we'll get to in a minute. And then we're going to, at the very end, want to put a period and then an extension. Now, I don't want to just use the file name, because if two people had the same file name, you know, unless we put it in a bucket based on their user ID, which is, you know, something we could do, you know, you might override it. So we're actually just going to generate sort of a random string. So I'm going to go to our utils, and we're going to make a new folder called strings.dart. And I'm just going to copy this. This is just a simple random string function. There's a million out there. You can feel free to use whatever you want. You can even do a UUID. But this basically just goes, and you know, you can put whatever characters you want, and you pass in a length, and it will give you back a lovely string. So therefore, here we're going to just use that function, and we're just going to make it maybe 12 characters. So now we can replace this with this. Okay, so we got that, and assuming, you know, if URL does not equal null, we'll do something. At the very end, we will return false if it, you know, didn't work. And then we're actually going to want to, you know, I'll just return true for now, but to do save on DB. Because uploading the file is one thing, but we also need to like be like, hey, my avatar has changed, which we will get to in a moment. All right, so we got image uploading. Now we need to save it to DB. So I fiddled with this for a while before. There is something built into Serverpod for avatars, and there is even just a, I think it's session manager dot, might be client dot modules dot auth dot up dot user dot upload. Here it is. Somewhere set user image where you can pass the image, and I could not make this work. That was my original intention when I was sort of planning out this project. I could not get this to work. I got server errors. So that's why I kind of and probably for the better too, being able to see this for other use cases, I decided to take this approach where we're kind of manually doing that. Now here's the thing: the user object in Serverpod it's kind of a fixed model. There could be, and I may just haven't learned or asked the right people yet, there could be ways to override it and extend it. But instead, we're going to make a new model called a profile. And that profile is going to be connected to that user, but it's going to be a sort of a separate model that we will update. And the profile can include things like a bio, a image URL, maybe like their address, I don't know, other like settings and stuff like that. So we're just going to make that now. So we're going to go to the server, and we're going to go to the lib source protocol and make something called profile.yaml. Okay, and this will be a class, and we'll just call it profile. It'll use a table called profile, and it's going to have some fields. First of all, it's going to have a user ID of an int, and it's going to have an avatar URL of a string, and maybe we'll put like a bio here too. Again, bio probably not is going to be at all necessary, just like an avatar URL really isn't necessary for this app specifically, but for learning purposes, it sounds good. Okay, and for some reason, a bunch of things got a little bit messy. What happened here? Wonder why it's, oh, that's why. We have to remember to use an uppercase S. There we go. So now we have that, and we need to run this SQL. So if we go to our generated tables and we scroll down enough, we should see profiles. Okay. So I'm going to copy this. We're going to go back to our SQL tool. We're going to just disconnect and reconnect to it, paste this in, and run it. There we go. No errors. We should be good. I'm not going to save that, and we'll close that. Okay, then we're going to go to our endpoints. So in server lib endpoints, we're going to make a new one called profile endpoint.dart. And let's make this guy right here. So class profile endpoint. This time I'm going to not copy the example one, and we'll do it properly because we made a mistake last time. And we're going to extend endpoint, which is built into Serverpod. And first of all, let's just make one to retrieve a profile by their ID. So retrieve and session as usual. And we're going to want to pass in a int of the user ID. And now we will, well, let's import this file, profile. And here we're just going to return await profile.find by ID session user, I guess, yeah, user ID is fine. Although, wait, this, I realize that that will not work because the user ID is not necessarily the same thing here. So really we want to do find single row, and we want to go where. This will be a profile, so we can go p.userid is equal to, user ID, because they might not be the same ID, and we're not doing anything to enforce that, because these are going to be separate models. Okay, then we're going to make one that's kind of similar to this. So I'm just gonna copy and paste it, and we're just gonna call it me. And this is gonna be one where we don't actually pass the user ID. We just like get my profile, right? So in order to get that user ID, and we've written this code before, we can just go user ID get this, and you know, if user ID equals null, let's just return null from here. Then we just do the same thing where user ID equals that user ID, and that's how we get that. Now, I'm gonna kind of put a hack in here, and I'll explain it in a minute. Let me just kind of type it out. So profile is going to be equal to this. Okay, then we're going to go if profile does not equal null, we're going to return the profile. All is good. Now here's the thing. We need a way to create, if a user tries to get their profile and it doesn't exist, we do need a way to create it. Now there's probably a billion different ways you could do this, but I'm taking this hacky route of, hey, if assuming the user's logged in and we can't find that profile, let's just make it for them now. It works. It will work. It's like a profile on demand, just-in-time profile. So what we'll do is we'll just go new profile equals, and we'll just make a profile, and we'll pass in the user ID of that, and avatar URL, we'll just do an empty string, and bio also an empty string. And then we will insert that into the database. So we just go profile.insert, and session, and new profile. And we'll want to await this. Then we'll just return the new profile. Okay, cool. So that should get it done. Yeah, we are cool with that. And then while we're here, let's just make the code to update their avatar. So we'll just go future, and it'll just be a bool, update avatar, right? And we'll take the session string avatar URL is what we'll pass up. And what we need to do is kind of all the same code here to get their profile, right? But you know, it's cool. We can actually just call this, right? I can go final profile equals and just pass me and go to session. And now I'm gonna get, you know, either a null back. This could be a, oh, we have to await it. So we're using this code basically here to get me. And assuming it's not null. And the only reason it'd be null is really like if you're not logged in, right? Because it will just return a new one if it can't find one. So if it's not null, we just go profile dot avatar URL equals avatar URL, then await profile dot update. Oops, this should say if it is not null. Then we just update the profile, and then we just return true. And if for some reason it gets down to here, meaning profile was null, we'll return false to conform to this. Okay, so we are going to restart our server. So at least once I'd like to not make that mistake. And let's go back to our account screen. Okay, so we get the image here. We go and we call our update avatar, and here's our to-do. So what we'd want to do now is essentially go await client dot, in this case it is profile, the new one, dot update avatar, and we pass in that URL and return true. And that should be all we need to actually save it to the DB. Let's see if it works. Avatar, click this. Okay, didn't see, oh, here's an error. Okay, field profile has not been initialized. I'm just going to rebuild and try this again. So let's go here, my account, avatar, there we go. No errors at least, and in order for us to check this, we're going to go to our database, and let's just open this up. Schemas, public, tables, profile, and let's look at it. We should have a new profile, 1.1, and there it is. There's our URL. So we have that. Awesome. Okay, now let's go back to our session model. So we have user info, but now we're also going to want to store or be able to manage the profile of this user. So let's do that. And now we're going to have to run our make Flutter make generate. I forget the command for this. Flutter gen. And because I'm already in that folder, I'm literally just going to copy this and run it. So this should update and get rid of this error for us in a moment. There it is, cool. Okay, so it is nullable. Now, in our session provider, anytime we're updating the user, we also want to get our user. So we can go profile equals client.profile.me, and we will await that. So we'll await the profile. And it's saying it's dynamic. This kind of happened before, but that should work. And then let's go to our account screen again, and instead of just a person, let's actually put let's use a image.network and give it a source of, this would be, what, do we have access to session yet? We don't. So let's just make final profile maybe equals ref.watch session provider dot profile, right? And we should probably just put this in, profile does not equal null, and profile dot avatar URL dot is not empty is when we'd want to show this, right? And we'll just grab this guy here, use that, and let's just give it like a width of 32, height of 32. Otherwise, we'll just do a size, we'll just do a placeholder. The one time we'll actually use this, and we'll also do this as a, yeah, this is fine for now. Let's just wrap this in a size box. Cool. Oops, but the size box obviously needs a width 32 and a height of 32, so it doesn't just try and do all that. All right. Okay, so let's just rebuild. Oh, I clicked the stop button. My mistake. My mistake. While that's going though, let's actually, just because we may find other places for an avatar, let's actually make a component for this. So we're just going to go into auth components, new thing called avatar.dart. And let's set that up. So stateless avatar, and it's going to use our base component again. And basically with this, I want to pass in the profile, which we'll just allow a null one to be passed in. And we'll want to make sure that we, of course, have those things set up, profile, and the size, we'll just set a default to 32. And basically in here, let us, hey, I got logged out, I guess because I fully left. So we have some issue happening. I was wondering why I got logged out, and it's because, yeah, I think we just have to rerun, I'm just not going to save this file. I think we just have to rerun our generate code. We had something like this happen before where it thought something was dynamic. And let's just see, session provider. So now, yeah, now we're good. Okay, so in theory, I should be logged in still. Yeah, great. I was wondering what was going on there. And there, I have my little picture. Yay! And we can change it. Let's just pick this one. And we should see. Now, we don't have any like loading progress indicator or anything. Oh, also, we need to make sure after we upload the avatar, before we return true, let's just run the update user function. That will re-get them and set it. So we'll just try this again with this photo. We should see it change. Great. Okay, so back to our avatar code here. So what I want to actually return is a container. And the container is going to have a width of whatever the size is and a height of whatever the size is. And we're going to put some decoration in it. Box decoration, border radius dot circular, and we'll take whatever the size is and divide it by 2. That'll give us some nice circular rounded corners. And we want to make sure that we clip, otherwise we'll still see stuff coming out of the box. And we want a child here. So this is basically now where you want that same code that we had over here. So I'm just going to cut this and place it here. Now, let's also build. We also need to change this. Allow widget ref. Okay. And we know that this exists in this case, so we can do that. Here, we don't need a size box now because we already have it in something. So we can just remove this widget. And the one thing we're missing is we want to set the fit of this to box fit.cover so that there's no, so it just looks good. And leading here, we would use avatar, and we pass in the profile. And there you have it, circular. And we can change it to, this photo, and we'll get that. All right, there you have it. I think that, that basically wraps up the core functionality here. We've touched on a lot of good pieces of Serverpod, everything from authentication to creating our own models and endpoints to even image uploading. If there's anything else I'd want to touch on Serverpod, it would be the socket connections that it supports, but that will be a separate video, a separate series, because it's other than like one potential use case I thought of for this app where you allow it to be shared between a whole household and have like sockets to update people. I don't really see that being the greatest need for socket-based connection. So we'll find another thing in the future to build around that because I'm excited to experiment with that a bit more. But there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this series, and I hope it turned you on to Serverpod as it did for me. I think it's a really cool project, and it is just in its early state here. In fact, if we go to their GitHub and we go to projects and we go to their roadmap, there's a whole lot of good things they have planned here. This is the one right now that I'm most excited about, the database migration. It's just going to make life a lot easier when you're adding stuff, and it's kind of a must-have these days in server-side development because Django has something, I think Prisma or Prism for Node has something for that, Ruby on Rails has something for that, PHP has something for that. Like, it's, I think, the one missing part of making this work really well. And if you go through, you can see they have a lot of other nice to have things, signing in with Twitter, adding Google Cloud. Right now S3 is the only supported image backend other than their own internal one, which is really just for development purpose. So yeah, lots of cool things. The only other part, and this will probably just be a follow-up video separate from this series, that I would also like to touch on is, and they've put a lot of work into this, is the deploying. And they actually have all this these great stuff set up to deploy your server-side code and everything to Amazon, to Google Cloud Engine, and I think it even is flexible to really go anywhere. So that'll be maybe a follow-up video, not part of this series, the hosting stuff, because running this on your computer is not not really useful in the real world, and they have a great solution for this. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.